Hello, my name is Paul Mooney, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about cohesion. And to tell you about cohesion, I think I'm going to have to start with my own journey. So, 51 years of age now, and I started my career when I was 18, so I've been in business quite a long time. And I think I would describe my journey as one of growing very fast, um, working at advancing senior levels in the corporate space, becoming an entrepreneur, and ultimately burning out as an entrepreneur in 2006. Looking back as I reflect on that journey, I think I was very busy. I was busy rather than doing business. And I was colluding, I think, with my own greed, searching in my own ego to fulfill myself through a business, ultimately failing in the business, in my life, my family, and my friends. So I think I began this journey in 2007, realizing that I was colluding with my own poor quality leadership, my immaturity as a leader. So since 2007, I've retrained myself, doing a number of doctoral studies, working in business in Australia, in the Middle East, in Europe, in Africa, to try and come up with a way to work with this cohesion as a sustainable business process. So since I've been engaged in business since 2007, what I've been seeing is the reality of business. And the reality of business is trauma, it's fear, it's waste, a lot of incoherence. Ultimately, I think what I would describe as fragmentation. And this brings me to look for the antidote to fragmentation, which I have named as cohesion. So, cohesion itself has a number of different definitions. In chemistry, it has the definition of the attraction of the parts of a molecular structure. In geology, cohesion is how well a piece of geology holds together. In computer programming, cohesion is how well the lines of code are held together, how robust they are, how reusable they are. In linguistics, cohesion is how the meaning of a sentence holds together as the sentence rolls on to the next sentence. Group cohesion can be described as how the individual connects with the group, how the individual connects with the other individuals in the group. And social cohesion can refer to how societies are busy with social mobility, working against marginalization, and helping people to grow and develop in society. As far as we're concerned, how we define cohesion, it's an invisible force that works to unite separate energies. And so in this cohesion work, what I've done is I've developed a spectrum from fragmentation to cohesion. At the lowest level, qualifying from data that we take from the system, we can say that a system is fragmentive. In the middle, the system can be adhesive, which has to be held together with duty, contracts, rules, regulations, performance management, and then a number of levels of cohesions from level 5 to level 1, logical cohesion right up to a functional cohesion, which is a very high score on our assessment instrument. So we gather data in a number of ways, and we do a thing called quadrangulation. We quadrangulate the data, which means we take data from individual members of the system, we take data from the leader of the system, we take data from the business system itself, the hard metrics, and we also take data from an observer who's looking at the system, who can give an objective view of what's going on in the system as well. We ultimately end up with a cohesion model, which relates the different levels of fragmentation to cohesion, and we end up with what we call a cohesion zone, which shows how cohesive the leader is within him or herself, how cohesive the group is within itself, how cohesive the organization is within itself, and the relationship between those three, and we show that in an inverted pyramid model. Ultimately, we end up with a dashboard, a physical web-based dashboard, which at the top level shows energy efficiency and economic efficiency. At level 2, it shows margin efficiency, productivity, efficiency, service, resilience, and productivity, the things that many leaders and managers are interested in because it relates to balance sheets. And then at the bottom level, what we call the cohesion level, which shows the cohesiveness between leader, group, and organization. So what does a cohesion intervention look like? So there are 4 intervention types that we do all together. And the first intervention type is what we call leader maturity. It looks very like the executive coaching process, however, much deeper, much wider. Our second process is executive resilience, which was the topic of my first doctoral study, and works with small groups of people over a 2.5-day period, followed by some executive coaching processes. The third process, which reaches out into the organization, is called group dialogue. Anywhere from 8, 10, 20, 40, 100, 200 people currently working on projects from 1,200 people, which will scale up to 50,000 people across about 12 or 13 different countries. So group dialogue can work at very high scalable levels. And then the fourth part is the dashboard that I described, the systemic analytics. So 4 parts to a cohesion intervention: leader maturity, executive resilience, group dialogue, and systemic analytics. Lots of testimonials from clients and customers about how the work shifts them, which you can read in any of our documents, and you can see that on the website. Credentially, we've worked with such organizations as Aon, Deloitte, Schweppes, Momentum, Nedbank, Standard Bank, the global marketing company TNS, Pick n Pay, Five Roses Tea, AVI, SARS, Liberty Life, UNISA, Metropolitan, Old Mutual, Imperial, University of Johannesburg, UNISA, and lots of other smaller interventions. And we as a community of practice, there are about 18 of us who are guides. We have the name guides rather than coaches or facilitators, and that's a very important distinction. About 18 of us in the project and 4 international supervisors who help us to maintain the quality of the intervention work throughout. The kind of authors who have inspired us: David Baum, Tony DeMello, David Peat, Joe Jaworski, Peter Senge, Thaddeus Golas, Claire Graves, Bill Isaacs, Ken Wilber, Alan Kahan, and a range of other thinkers who've really, I think, informed us as a community to inform our philosophy, which informs the practice. So coming back to the practice, what do we actually see when we go into organizations? Like I said earlier, we see waste, we see fear, we see trauma, we see poor quality of thinking, we see incoherence, we see fragmentation. And we work with the leader as convener of dialogue, and we work with the group as the unit of transformation. And we work with those in a very simple way. While what we do has much complexity and may seem complicated to us when we're doing it, there is a simple elegance to the process and the interventions. We build containers where rational thought, emotional thought, energy thought are contained in a very safe way, which allows people to do their work, groups to do their work, which has an impact on the organization. Ultimately, we work with converting energy into economic output. We have a deep philosophical base, and we have thousands of hours of practice, which I think what gives us the credibility to do what we do today. When we run an intervention, a cohesion intervention, so what? What happens in the organization? Well, when we track data like this, ultimately we see big shifts in listening. We see big shifts in learning, in leadership, in accountability, in dialogue, better quality decision making, better authenticity, better connections between leaders who are often at loggerheads with each other, better connections with groups, more collaboration. everybody working with more confidence, working from a space of better emotional intelligence. Interestingly, we see shifts in power, less abuse of power, more sharing of power. We see more enthusiastic staff, more enthusiastic leaders. We see better flow, better impact of the energy and the endeavor that people put into the system. We see big shifts in integrity. And I think ultimately what we see are paradigm shifts, so that the collection of beliefs which make up the culture are shifted in a positive way. I think ultimately we see a shift from that negativity to positivity, which is, I suppose, almost like an alchemical transformational process. And altogether, everything you've just heard is what we call cohesion. And when we track data using dashboards, what we've seen in the past is plus or minus 50% shift in energy utilization and plus or minus 30 to 40% shifts, positive shifts in economic output. So in these few minutes, I've tried to share with you the cohesion framework, and in a later video, I think what I'd like to share with you is the philosophical stance and the theory of how we approach our work and why we do what we do.